Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going through this World Cup news that we got yesterday, January 24th. We're going to go through this article that the Overwatch, the Play Overwatch website put out and talk about it. If you've noticed that this is my third straight video of doing just kind of a go through the article and talk about it, I apologize. It's just kind of what we've had right now. It's a lot of the news. It's just kind of stuff I really want to kind of get through. And it's stuff with a lot of information that I want to kind of talk about. And I'd rather just do it this way and just kind of have the information and you can kind of follow along as I read through it and explain it. So I'm going to try to get some other videos soon, but right now that's just kind of what we have, unfortunately. But this article announcing the 36 teams competing in the 2023 Overwatch World Cup. Link to this in the description as always. You want to check that out there. But let's jump in and let's talk about the World Cup. In 2023, the 5th Overwatch World Cup competition will crown the first World Cup champion since 2019. Reigning champion United States and three-time winner South Korea will try to build on their legacy with another gold medal. But the launch of Overwatch 2 brings new competitors to the scene. Will a new champion be crowned this year? It is time to meet your competing countries and regions. So, let's jump in here. No spoilers. I don't want to spoil anything like that. We haven't gotten there yet. No, we haven't gotten there yet. World Cup trials and online qualifier, competing countries and regions. So there's a lot of information here. Let's go in. We'll do paragraph by paragraph and talk about what we got. The program will consist of 3 conferences, each with 2 separate groups of 6 countries and regions. These countries and regions have been selected based on Overwatch 2 player population data. In February, competition committee applications begin. Additionally, each participating country and region will host World Cup trials over 3 weekends in February. Those 3 weekends being February 10th through 12th, 17th through 19th, and 24th through 26th. And competition committees will be responsible for organizing additional team tryouts in March and finalizing a team of 7 players in April. So this is a lot of just kind of the general kind of information. This is not really this is not the juicy information. I guess the knowledge that there's 2 separate groups of 6 countries and regions is pretty interesting, but we'll get to more kind of firm information down there when we actually get to the lists and the groupings. In addition to the 36 selected countries and regions, the 2023 Overwatch World Cup will have a wildcard challenge that will award 4 additional spots for teams to compete. Details around the wildcard challenge will be published in February. Now, I don't know exactly how this is going to work. I don't know if this is 4 teams that will get additional spots in the, I assume in this group stage. I don't think it's going to get you into the top 16, but I think it will get you a spot somewhere in the qualifiers, maybe depending on what regions do well and how well they advance. We'll see information on that later on. I don't really know exactly if they're doing it. As I say here, it's based on Overwatch 2 player population data, so there's some countries that have a lot of big name talent in the Overwatch scene that aren't present in these 36 countries and regions. So I understand why they did that. I think it's a smart move to say, look, if you're one of the 4 best countries, that didn't get included. If you're one of the 40 best countries, you will have a shot here, right? Like you should at the very least have a shot here. If you're the 15th best country, or you're like, the 3rd best country in your region by how good your players are, but you don't have the population, you should, in theory, be able to get into playing for the qualifiers. So I don't know how it's going to work. Obviously, that means it's 40. So it'll be interesting to see how that happens when it's all broken up into 36 and it's 6 groups of 6. But now you're adding 40. Like I said, we don't know yet. That will be happening in terms of details for it in February. So I'll make another video when we get to that. And we'll talk about that more when we have that information. But then we move on to this final paragraph here where they say in June, teams will compete within their groups to earn one of 16 spots at the LAN finals, scheduled to be held in the fall of 2023. This paragraph here this part of the paragraph is very important. Given the current dynamics in China and that a team from China has always performed very well, including 2 second-place finishes in the last 2 Overwatch World Cups, a team from China will receive a direct invitation to the group stage. There will be no World Cup trials in China, and the team will not compete in the open qualifiers or the online qualifiers. The trials process in China will differ from that of other countries and regions, and they will share more information with players in the China region regarding that process directly. To me, this is a very important thing to talk about. I would not be surprised if there are some people online that are upset about this, basically saying, like, why does China, get a direct spot? It's unfair, etc., etc. I don't think it's a big deal. I personally don't mind it. I think it actually makes a lot of sense why it's happening, because, as I said, China has historically been very, very good in the World Cup. And when you've been very, very good in the World Cup, I think you deserve a spot when you have a situation like we have right now in China. If China didn't have a history of being very good, I would be a little more, I'd be a little more like maybe peeved by this. But China has a very good track record. I think that you shouldn't exclude China, who I think are very, very important to the World Cup historically and just to the Overwatch scene in general. I think that Chinese fans are very, very important, and also Chinese players are a very big part of Overwatch. And you can't tell the history of the last two Overwatch World Cups without China. So to me, this makes perfect sense, and I don't have any issues with this. And I'm actually very happy that this is the decision they made in regards to the Chinese team. And I think that's honestly, and China has always had a lot of different rules and stuff like contenders. They've always had different formats and stuff like that, which, that's just the way it is. Things are handled differently from region to region. I don't really have an issue with this. I don't think it's a problem. I think China deserves to get the automatic spot from their past successes, considering the current situations. If there wasn't an issue with NetEase, then I think that it would be weird for China to get an auto qualifier. But considering that there isn't a Chinese kind of way to get Chinese players to play, I think it's fair. And I think it's just saying, hey, give China a spot in the top 16, because let's be honest, China is one of the 16 best countries at Overwatch. They're top 5 easily, and they are probably, let's be real, top 3. So to me, absolutely they deserve this spot, and they should be there, so I don't have an issue with that. But let's get in and let's look at the 36 teams and 6 groups for the online qualifiers. First one is the Americas Conference. You can see we have A and B. So the way this works, and this will be talked about later in the article, but I'll just give you a little heads up so we don't have to kind of bounce back and forth. From the A conference in each region, 3 teams will qualify, and from the B region in each conference, 2 teams will qualify. So I don't know what the reasoning behind that is. My guess is they tried to put the better 6 teams in A and the weaker 6 teams in B. That might not be true, because in a region like this one, it's literally divided by North America and South America. So every team in America A is in North America, and every team in America B is in South America. Or I should say, for America A, it's North and Central America. But for America A, you have Canada, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Mexico, Puerto Rico, and the United States. Interesting that Puerto Rico has its own spot here, which I think is very, very interesting, and something that could potentially mean something for the future. I don't really know if there's anyone that will really mean a lot with, but I suppose it's possible. We'll see what happens. From that region, my guess would be Canada, the USA, and then probably Mexico move on. There's not a lot of talent that I know of between Costa Rica, Guatemala, Puerto Rico, and Mexico that have done very, very well. So it's tough to say for sure. But that's my guess. Definitely US and Canada, they should be a top-level team between the two of them. Like, both of them should be very, very good. It's a question of whether or not those players are all present, or those teams still have that kind of high level of performance in the future, and whether or not that region still kind of performs well later on. Who knows? We'll see. But it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens there. Like I said, there's not a lot right now that I know of from any of those countries outside of Canada and the U.S. In America B, we have Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. I would guess Brazil. I know Brazil has a pretty big scene. I know Brazil had a lot of very good players when South American Contenders was running. So in theory, I think Brazil should have a pretty good team. Colombia, if EQO plays, maybe could be decent. The other one is really just kind of a shot in the dark. Argentina or Colombia will probably be my guess, but I don't know how that region is going to go. But that's the Americas. So we have A and B. So 3 teams out of America A and 2 teams out of America B. Moving on to the Europe and Middle East Conference, which is a very interesting one, and one that's a little bit more broken up in a different way from the one in the America region, which is why I think it's interesting. Because here in the Europe and Middle East Conference, in the A group, we have Belgium, France, Great Britain, Italy, Netherlands, and Spain. And then in B, we have Germany, Norway, Poland, Saudi Arabia, Sweden, and Turkey. So obvious omissions are the biggest ones, definitely Finland and Denmark. Denmark in particular, when you consider that's where Shockwave is from. That is where Kelix is from. They were a top 10 team in the last World Cup. They were a very, very, very good team. They were a top 8 team technically in the last World Cup. So them not being here is definitely surprising. You would have expected them to have a presence here. In terms of who I think will qualify from each group, from A, I think definitely France, Great Britain, and probably the Netherlands. Maybe Belgium. Belgium does have some decent talent, but I don't know if it's enough to kind of get them over the line. Netherlands, you have a lot of really high-level tank players. They were a top 10 team in the last World Cup. They were kind of the dark horses. Assuming Kosaurus is their coach, I think they'll do pretty well again. So I'll throw the Netherlands in with France and Great Britain. For the B group, it's very interesting. I'm high on Saudi Arabia. I think they're a very, very, very good team. I think they have a lot of really good talent. I think that they have become one of the most talented regions in Overwatch over the past 4 years, since 2019, since the last World Cup. You have players like Sir Majed and KSA, who've both been in the Overwatch League, and you have tons of contenders talent in EU contenders from Saudi Arabia. So I think they will be a team that moves on. I want to say Sweden because you have Kevster and Sparker, which is a really, really solid duo there. Maybe Germany. Obviously, you have players like Khan and Hadi who are from Germany, so that's a possibility that instead maybe it's Germany. But I think Saudi Arabia and Sweden are the 2 most likely out of there. But if we do see a situation where we have like Denmark and Finland or whoever playing in this region, who knows what happens then. But I'd say France, Great Britain, Netherlands, Sweden, Saudi Arabia are my 5 picks out of this region. And then finally, we have the Asia-Pacific Conference, where we have, in the APAC A Conference, we have Chinese Taipei, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Japan, the Philippines, and South Korea. And in B, we have Australia, India, Malaysia, New Zealand, Singapore, and Thailand. The obvious inclusion here from the A Conference is South Korea. They will most definitely move on from this conference. They're one of the favorites. They're the favorite every year. They've won all but one World Cup. They will most likely be qualifying from this. The A Conference is very interesting to look at because it is tough to say for sure who will do well. I think Chinese Taipei has historically had some pretty good talent. Chinese Taipei are players from Taiwan. I don't know the full history of why it's Chinese Taipei and not anything else. I think there's a lot of political reasons why, I'm pretty sure. But if you're confused, that's what it is. It's players from Taiwan. That's Chinese Taipei. And so they've had some good talent, like Bacon Jack is from there. Well, some other players. I think, who was that tank player that they had? A-Ting, I think, may also be from Chinese Taipei. So there's some talented players from there. So I think they might qualify. I don't know who else, though. I don't know what the state of Hong Kong is right now in Overwatch. I don't know how good the talent is there. Japan, I think, is a sleeper. They've had some good talent in the past, obviously, when you look at a player like Tayo, who's very, very good. So Japan definitely is a possibility. Indonesia has some really good talent in the past. And Thailand has some good talent in the past as well in the B region. So It will be interesting. I think Thailand's probably the better one between the Thailand and Indonesia. But Indonesia's always had some like decent talent, so decent runs in the World Cup. But I don't know a lot about the Philippines either, so it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens there. But I think South Korea, Chinese Taipei, and then either Hong Kong or Japan will be the three out of that region. In B, I think Australia should move on. There's quite a bit of talent there. Punk and some other really well-known players in the Australian contender scene as well. So I think Australia should move on. It gets interesting between New Zealand and Thailand, because depending on what happens in Thailand, we could have a very different potential kind of look, right? Thailand has had some very good players in the past. I think, Patifon is from Thailand. Mickey's from Thailand. So there are a lot of really good players who did play in Thailand. And so whether or not he comes back, I don't think Patifon is expected to come back because, he retired and then went back to Valorant. So I don't think Patifon will be a part of this. Though who knows? He could come back just for the World Cup and then go back to Valorant again. Who knows? We'll see. But I think Australia is the favorite out of that region, and then probably New Zealand or Thailand. When it comes to India, Malaysia, and Singapore, I don't know what the state of their teams are right now, so I don't really have a comment on those three. We've seen big-name talent out of New Zealand and Thailand. I don't really think we've seen anybody out of India or Malaysia or Singapore. Another potential snuff here is Vietnam. Obviously, that is where Mirror is from. So another potential team, if we have a Mirror-led Vietnam team, that could potentially cause some damage, but we'll see what happens there. And so here they say, with a team from China securing one of the 16 spots, advancing to groups, this is the distribution of the remaining 15 spots. And so it's 3 out of America A, 3 out of European A, 3 out of APAC A, and then 2 out of the Bs. So technically, assuming China would have been in APAC A, there will be 4 teams out of APAC A, which I think is interesting. I don't really know what to expect. We'll see, but that's kind of how it works. Now here's the fun stuff, which is all of your competition committee stuff. So if you're someone who's interested in doing that, here's the information you need to know. So here it says each team will be represented by a competition committee that consists of the following 3 roles. A general manager who's responsible for team operations and communications with Blizzard. A coach who is responsible for leading tryouts, player selection, and all competitive aspects of the team. And a social lead who's responsible for the team's social media, content, and engagement initiatives. And if you want to get involved, here are the things that you can do. Create a video that describes who you are, why you want to be a competition committee member, and what unique advantages you can bring to the space. Step 2 is fill out the web form that they have, and also written statements for step 1 will be accepted there in lieu of a video. There you go. And then step 3, if you're selected, Blizzard will reach out via email or Discord. And aspiring committee members can complete the online application now. The submission window will close January 30th. So you have 5 days to get those in. And the selection process will be finalized from February 1st through 10th, with Blizzard selecting the committee members for each country and region. To be an eligible committee candidate or prospective player for the 2023 Overwatch World Cup, you must be over the age of 18 by October 1st, 2023. So if you are interested in doing it, don't slack. You have 5 days. So if you're thinking about doing it, you got to make your mind up soon. So keep that in mind if that's something you're interested in. Then we have some stuff at the bottom. Follow Overwatch and Path to Pro on Twitter for updates. They will reveal the final competition committees and the player rosters through those channels. There's also a new website on the way. And so when that drops, of course, I will talk about it when it comes out. And then some other stuff. There's some FAQ stuff. You can kind of see some of them here. Other opportunities for countries and regions not in the above list to compete. So we'll get information on that on February 1st on OverwatchWorldCup.com. Let's see if I can pull that up. Nope, I cannot. Doesn't exist yet. So that'll be something that we get on February 1st. So keep that in mind. Format for the trials is a double elimination randomly seeded bracket, and the winner of each World Cup trials will earn a guaranteed spot in their country or region's team March tryouts. who is allowed to apply for a competitive committee position. Any person with an active Battle.net account in good standing is eligible to apply for a committee position for their country or region of residence. Where can you sign up? It'll be on worldcup.com, which will launch on February 1st. Should have seen that. Where are the rules? They'll be available in the sign-up portals for each respective tournament. Blah, blah, blah. What documents do you need? Proof of valid passport. Also need to provide a Blizzard proof of a government-issued identification from the country or region you're trying to represent. And all that stuff. So some quite a bit of information here. We will see what happens over time, and we'll kind of see what goes on. February 1st, when we get the next bit of news, so we'll talk about it then as well. But that's it for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know your excitement level for the World Cup, if you're as excited as I am. I love the World Cup. I love the Overwatch League. I think the World Cup is the single best Overwatch esports event there is. I think there is nothing better than the World Cup. I really think the World Cup is wonderful and fantastic and is a really great way to kind of showcase some lesser known content, or lesser known players and lesser known regions. You know, like I was saying before, South America doesn't have representation anymore in contenders. So this is a big stage for a lot of these players, and we are going to get 2 teams from South America in the top 16. I don't know if it's Brazil, I don't know if it's going to be Brazil, Argentina, if it's going to be Colombia, if it's going to be Peru, whoever, but 2 of those teams will be in the top 16, which is only good for the region. I'm all good with that. I'm actually really happy with this format. The 2019 format was decent, except the fact that it was basically all just US, Canada, South Korea, and then a bunch of European teams that made it to the top, and China. And so 6 of the top 10 were all European teams. So I like this format. We're getting a top 16 where there's a nice mix. You have, a bunch of teams from North America and South America, a bunch of teams from Europe, and a bunch of teams from Asia, all kind of getting to represent the world generally, and not just the couple of regions that are actually like super, super good, which I like. I think it's a really good thing to do. I think that it is more important to represent people who've not had those opportunities. And there's always great stories. Think about, like, I was just saying how there was a lot of European teams in the last World Cup, but Team Netherlands was such an interesting story last World Cup because no one expected them to do as well as they did, and their run just kept going and going and going, and they did very, very well when no one really expected it. And so that, I think, is the really awesome thing. So if we get a miracle run by a country like Colombia or Hong Kong, a region like Hong Kong, like that would be a really massive, massive win for the Overwatch scene and for that country. And I'm so excited for stuff like that to potentially happen. And even if it doesn't, just getting to see players kind of get endeared to the community. It's one of the things that I think the Overwatch League struggles with the most, which is that at the end of the day, the Overwatch League is all of the best competition in the world, at least the competition that we know about. But you look at esports like Valorant and League of Legends, where you can kind of have some of those really nice, cool like storylines from these lesser represented regions. It's always really cool to see. I talked about Polyphon before, but when he was on, I don't even remember the name of the team, A10 or whatever it was in Valorant. I apologize for not remembering. That did very, very well in the Master Tournament. Like, everyone loved that team because they were just a kind of bunch of dogs just kind of playing, and they did really, really well. And that's the type of stuff that I'm hoping we get to see in the World Cup this year. That's why I'm so excited for its return. So let me know your thoughts on anything that I talked about today in the comments down below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing, as your support does help out a lot. But that's all for today. Thank you all so much once again. Hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye-bye.